This is one of my favorite blacktail buck videos. There's 3 does that came in, and one of them squatted in the corner of this video and took a pee, and then they moved off, and they're actually in the background now. And this buck was dogging them, and watch his reaction. He stuck his nose down right where that one peed, and obviously that particular doe is in season, and this guy is quite interested. It was also interesting to me that they stayed in an area that couldn't have even been a quarter-mile wide. The doe stayed there, the buck stayed there, and they just kind of went in circles in front of these trail cameras. I find quite a few rubs where the bucks are rubbing on the trees, but I don't find an awful lot of scrapes on the ground. They definitely scrape in the same areas, but it's just not as common as what I've seen with whitetail. This particular area is one of the areas, and you can see this buck rubbing his tarsal glands together. He checks on his back legs, he checks the ground, sniffs, grabs a little lichen, and moves on in his route. This is that same buck about a quarter-mile away. You can see the young alders there, and he's checking some scrape areas. There's also, the reason I found this place is those young alders are all ripped up. You can't see it in this black and white, but in the daytime it's pretty obvious this is a regular haunt. So he's smelling an area there where his scrapes are, and I've got video of the does coming through there and peeing. Here's another trail camera of the same area, different vantage point, and it's daytime. You can see he's coming through there doing exactly the same thing. So Chris has been with us on trail camera adventures before, and he knows an awful lot about big blacktails. And anyway, I'm going to have him share a few of his thoughts about these blacktail and where to find them, and in particular the bucks, because they're the ones that are just so interesting. Okay, Chris, so everyone can pretty much find blacktail, but it's the really big bucks that are the tough ones to find. You got any advice or ideas on how you do it?
Well, number one would be really just gauging the area, looking at a map, online map, Onyx maps, and really finding those timber patches, alder patches, vine maple, and then going into big timber, because big blacktail bucks love cover, where to the point where you could probably walk by them within 5 to 10 feet and you wouldn't even know they were bedded down there, and they're just going to watch you walk right by them.
They just don't seem to move, do they?
They don't move. No, they don't. And then if they do, it's a slow-mo move, and you might see ear twitch. That's about it. In a lot of these videos that John puts out, you watch a lot of these big blacktail bucks, and you look at what time of day or what time of night. The big one is the nighttime, because they are nocturnal. So you find those big timber patches with thick vine maple on the outskirts, thick reproduced trees, Weyerhaeuser land, and so on. That you find those trails that are coming in and out of those corridors, those travel lanes. That's usually what I look for, those heavily used trails where you're seeing a lot of doe. I don't really need to see a buck track right away. If I see does, I know they're going to be there eventually.
They love that nasty, thick stuff. They love
that nasty. The nastier, the better. And I know going on in the video, we'll talk a little bit more regarding calling in those thick, nasty areas and pulling those bucks out in a way that you can get good film on them.
All right. Okay, Chris, there's a lot of discussion and ideas and thoughts about how big a area that these blacktail live in. The does seem to travel a little bit more than the bucks, but we're all guessing. What do you think? Is it seasonal? Is it what is it?
Well, I do believe that it's seasonal. When the bucks are in velvet, they are surely out in the open. They don't like getting their antlers hit at all. They don't like getting them tangled up in the vine maple. When it becomes more, when their antlers harden, they move into the timber a lot more, little thick areas. When it's the rut, it's October-ish, it's November. Those bucks are moving everywhere, and following those does. And when there's one buck, there's going to be 2 bucks. There might be 3 bucks.
Do you think they go outside of their area?
I think they do.
How big is that area, though? That's the thing that I'm curious about.
It could be, I'm taking a guess, really. It can be a 10-acre tract. It could be a 5-acre tract. And then later on in the season, end of November, December-ish, January, you're looking at maybe 100-yard area. They don't move.
It's all about cover,
especially
isn't it?
Those big bucks. It could be a suburban area, and you'll see a 40 by 40 patch of thick goodness, I call it, vine maple, and there's a big buck in there, and that's where he's going to live. And he's not going to move. He doesn't need to. So it really is seasonal and weather dependent, really, as well. I found that when in the windier, the nastier it is, those bucks are moving. Those blacktail are moving all over the place. It's a fantastic time to get a lot of good footage on film.
So I want to talk about migration, and not in the sense of miles and miles that we all know that mule deer do, and some of the areas that I've been, whitetail have a little bit of a migration. It's all about the winter. On St. Helens, there's some areas that are really steep, and there's some mountaintops, and there's one big buck in particular that we started this video with that I want to find his haunts. The only time I see him on my trail camera is in the worst of the snow during the winter, and he's down in the valley. So I got a feeling there's a bit of a migration with this guy. What do you think?
I think that's definitely migration is a very strong term to use. I believe that the black-tailed deer will follow the snow line, for sure.
That makes sense.
They follow the snow line. The Cascade Roosevelts, not really a migration, but they'll definitely follow that snow line and get down into the farmlands, if there is farmlands.
Definitely,
get down in the lower elevation a little bit. There's not much of a migration, but they definitely follow that snow line quite a bit.
So really, when you're looking at where the buck may hang out during the spring, it's a higher elevation because there's no snow.
For sure.
So they could be all the way up 4,000 or 5,000 feet.
Correct.
And then come December and January, when I'm getting them down at 1,000, it's only because the snow's pushing them down.
Yes.
Oh, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So this guy in particular, the big boy in particular, that we're going to find his haunts, he does happen to be at the bottom of about, I think it's a 3,000 foot cliff. So we're gonna make that effort and climb that. It's not a cliff, it's very steep.
And I think what we'll find is, and when we're doing the studying on onyx and whatnot, we'll find some finger ridges, and that's really what we're looking for with big black-tailed buck. We're looking for those finger ridges coming down, some access to water for sure, and some good vegetation. But those big blacktails love to haunt on those finger ridges so they can look over the top and look down in. So
that's a good point. what I noticed about this one is there is some water up top, and there's actually water that come down, creeks that come down in two different areas. So I'm kind of hoping as we ascend and get to the top when the snow starts going away, that there are some trails that go right up to it. There's also, because of the creeks that come down, it's there's some older growth, some riparian there area that they have not cut, and I have a feeling that that's what the blacktail. They absolutely love that.
That old cat roads they can walk and make trails, and you'll find those just beat down old cat roads, CC trails. That those big blacktails, even big bulls, will venture down and use as a good thorough way. Well,
we're gonna seek those out on this one, and hopefully he's got it all marked up with.
There's definitely be some rubs and whatnot from the last couple of years. So.
All right, thank you.